Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to do some additional stuff with our 3D camera tracker for After Effects. And then we're going to do some vector animations to create a little phone hologram that we're going to have float above this phone. It's going to be lots of fun. Okay, so here's a little tip for you, very beginning. Remember how we're always putting the 3D camera tracker on and then we're having it do the detailed analysis of the video, and then when we click on the 3D camera tracker in the Effects Controls tab, remember how I was trying to hover over points to try and find a disk that looked like it was on the plane that we're trying to track? Well, here's a tip for you. If you look at this mark...
Well, your screen's not on.
Yeah.
We can't see what you're showing.
We can't see what you're doing at all.
You're pretending.
Well, so if you take a look at your phone in just a second, there are 3 points on this phone that I know for sure are right on the face of the phone. And that's this one on this corner, this one, and this one. And they just so happen to coincide with corners of the face, which are pretty convenient. So what you do is you can select one, hold down Command, select another, hold down Command, and select a third, and that will triangulate those three.
No, they don't have to be 3 different colors, right? As long as they're just 3.
Yeah, as long as it's 3 points, it'll triangulate those 3 points. So that disc looks like it's sitting right on the same plane as the face of this phone. And I just scrolled along till I found a frame where there were 3 points that were on the same horizontal plane. And that triangulates my plane right there. Now I can right click on it and I'm going to create a solid and a camera. Okay. Now with that solid selected, I am going to hold down Command, Option, and Y. Command Shift Y. And I'm going to change the size of this from 1080 to 1080 to 1920 by 1080, because I know that the phone that we're matching this up to has a screen that is 1920 by 1080 because it's an iPhone. That is almost right smack on there. I was hoping that would work out better than that. It's pretty close. I'm going to do just a slight scale here, and then do a rotation on the Z-axis. Just try to position that right on the face of the phone screen there. Okay, so now let's watch it. That looks like it's pretty close. Okay, so moving forward, I'm going to use that as the basis for what I'm going to replace the screen with. Okay, so let's leave that for now and create a new comp. We're going to do some animation here. This one is going to be 1920 by 1080. You could also, because depending on whether we're going to do a vertical or a horizontal animation, I'm going to go ahead and do a horizontal 1920 by 1080, but most people look at their phones from the front, but because we're settling on this last frame and this will be kind of vertical, I'm going to just do it horizontal. If we were ending on this frame and we had some text on here, we would want to be able to read it upright from here. So we would need to do a 1080 by 1920 comp and so that we can see that vertically. All right, so new comp. 1920 by 1080, 2997, that's all good because
Did you say 29?
I said 2997. Actually, the source of this one is 30 frames a second. So maybe we should make our comp 30 frames a second. So down here on comp 1, I'm going to hit Command K to bring up my comp settings. I'm going to call this hologram animation. Make it 30 frames per second. Mine's 30 seconds long. This comp is 7 seconds and 22 frames. So I could match that. Alright, I think that should be good. Okay, just try to follow along as best you can right now because I'm going to do some fun stuff with some shapes. I'm going to start by creating a star. I'm going to hold this down and try to somewhat center that up on the screen. The way that I can make sure that this is centered is once I have my star drawn, if I hit Command Option Home, that'll put my anchor point right in the middle. And then if I hit Command Home, that'll put the anchor point position back in the center. Okay, so now I have a star that's right in the middle. All right, so let's go down to the
This might
star.
be a really dumb question.
Uh-huh.
But what's the home button on a Mac?
It's your function key and then your left arrow on your Apple keyboard. On your little Apple laptop keyboard, it's your function key and your left arrow.
Oh,
That's your home key.
Okay.
So you'll have to hold down Command Function Alt
Okay.
left arrow to do your, yeah. It's
I was
one
wondering
more
about
key
that.
for you.
Okay. No.
All right.
I really-
All right, so let's twirl. I'm going to twirl down my shape options. I'm going to pull up this transform one, twirl down the contents, twirl down polystar, and under polystar path, twirl that down. Under the number of points, I'm going to change this to 3 and turn it into a triangle. I messed up my inner and outer radiuses here. All right. So now I'm going to try doing that Command Option Home thing again because I think that changes the mass. No, let's leave that. Let's just leave that right where it is. All right. Now there's a couple of things I'm going to animate. See this inner radius and this outer radius? Check out what coolness that does. That makes it look like an outlined box. That turns it into a 3-point little star thing. If I do the outer radius, I can really have it go out like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a keyframe for my outer radius. My playhead is at the first frame here. So I'm going to hold down, here's lots of keyboard shortcuts for you. Option, Shift, right arrow will move that keyframe that I have selected over 10 frames. So I'm going to do that again, and that'll move it over 20 frames. Now I'm going to take this outer radius and I'm going to bring this way down. Actually, it's going to be 0. Okay, so now I have this to start with. So now might be a good time for me to go up to my stroke for this layer and make it 0 because I don't want it. I want it to start from invisible, which it does when that inner radius is 0. Okay. Ring. Pretty fun, huh? All right, now I'm going to take this keyframe and I'm going to do an easy ease on it which is F9 on your keyboard. Then here's a shortcut. Here's another shortcut. K for keyframe, right? Command Shift K will bring up your velocity settings for that keyframe. This is how strong. So if I go into my graph editor and show my speed graph, then if I grab this little handle and start dragging it over, do you see that influence percentage going up? Well, if I want to be exact and do the same thing to several keyframes, Command Shift K will do that. So if I see that incoming velocity, if I change that to 75, then I can also change the outgoing velocity to 75 and it'll scoop it out the other direction too if I had two keyframes. Or yeah, if I had another keyframe on the right side of it. Anyway, so that is just another way to control the weight of this. See, now if I grab it,
on the first keyframe?
it's right at 75. Well, it was. What was that?
Did you put that on the first keyframe?
Just the second one.
Oh, the second.
Okay, because with it being invisible, I want it to look like it's popping out of nowhere and then settling into place. So I'm not doing any easing on the first one. So check it out. Boing. All right. So now what I'm gonna do now that I've got that done, is I'm gonna hit U and U to hide those keyframes. I'm gonna duplicate this triangle 2 times. So Command D, Command D. This bottom one I'm gonna call red triangle. The next one I'm gonna call blue triangle. And should we do the third one green or yellow?
Green.
Red, green, blue? Green triangle. Okay, so right now, if I change this top one to green, and then play my animation back, why am I only seeing a green shape? Because all 3 of these are the exact same animation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all the same. Okay, just so we know that. In this middle one, I need to change this to a blue triangle. All right, now for fun, let's select all 3 of these layers, hit U to uncover those keyframes, and I'm going to offset each of these 2 frames. So I'm going to make that one begin at 2 frames, and this one begin at 4 frames.
How do you move it by keyframe? Is it just your arrow?
So page down will move your playhead forward 1 frame at a time. And then if you select the layer and use the left bracket, that'll put the beginning of that layer at your playhead. So then if you go forward 2 more frames, Command up will select the next layer up, and then you can hit the left bracket. So watch how fast I can do that. Forward, up, forward, well, there.
Real quick, what's the key to put the anchor in the center again? Command Shift Home? Or?
It was Command Option Home puts it at the center. Although, guess what I'm going to tell you to do now? I'm going to tell you to put your anchor points on the corners. Here's how you can do that. So I'm going to select my blue one, or my green one, which is my top one, and I'm going to hit Y to grab my move behind tool, or my anchor point tool. And then as I drag this up to the corner, if I hold down Command, it will snap that to, as I drag it along the edge, it can snap it to the edge, or if I get close to the corner, it'll snap it to the corner. Okay. Next, what I want to do is go to my blue triangle, snap it to this corner, go to my red triangle, snap it to that corner, okay? At this point in time, all three of them are the same, but look what happened because I offset that timing at the beginning. If I go forward 1 frame at a time, I'll get 2 frames of the red triangle, 2 frames of the blue triangle, and then 2 frames of the green triangle. And offsetting their timing like that makes it so it looks like it's a single shape that's kind of unfolding on itself. And you could keep doing it over and over and over with more colors and just go just like have it unfold with a whole bunch of different colors. But I'm just doing 3. All right, now with the timing of those set up like that, I like it. And my anchor points at each corner. Before this is done expanding all the way out, maybe at frame 13, I suppose. 14, I'm going to do mine at 14. With all 3 of them selected, I'm going to hit Option S, and that'll add a scale keyframe on all 3 of the selected layers. Okay, so all 3, even though the beginning of each layer is at a different time, at this point, all of these scale keyframes are at the same place. So now I'm going to advance my playhead forward 30 frames. And the way to do that is hold down Shift and hit page down 3 times, and that'll advance it 30 frames, which in this case is how much time, considering our frame rate? 30 frames a second, so it's 1 second, right? Okay. All right, now with all 3 of these selected still, all I have to do is select the scale property of one of them, type in 0, and all 3 of them will go to 0. Only watch what happens. Because their anchor points are at their respective corners, they're going to go away from each other like that. So the reason why I had these scale keyframes start happening before they were done growing and expanding out is so that you could see them start to kind of unfold before they get all the way into their place. So you never actually see the green triangle fully cover the other 2.
What was the key command to like select all the key points?
With all of them selected, I hit Alt S, and that added a scale. That turned on the scale stopwatch. But if later on I ever hit Alt S again, whatever the value is for the scale, it'll put a keyframe there also for any selected layer. I'm all about the tips today. All right, so another thing I might mess with before I do this, I'm going to select all 3 of the layers again and hit S and then S again just so I can see the scale keyframes. And I'm going to do that same trickery that I did before. I'm going to hit function F9, or if you don't have your function keys active, then just hit F9 to ease out just the first keyframe. Then I'm going to hit Command Shift K to change the weight of these to 75 again, and 75. Click OK, and that'll add a whole bunch of easing to that first keyframe. All right, so here's another thing I want to do. I want these to start scaling down. This green one's kind of covering enough that it's not really kind of looking the way I want it to. So I need to change the timing of these keyframes. I'm going to select all the layers and hit U to uncover all the keyframes. And I'm going to drag these 3 offset outer radius keyframes so that these can really start scaling in before I'm going to like really overlap those keyframes. Okay. So there's some fun shape stuff. All right. Good times. I wonder what this would look like if we selected all 3 of these and turned off the fill, but then put a stroke on. That's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Nice.
So it's the same thing. It's just I removed the fill and added a stroke. Ring. All right. So let me put all my shapes back. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to end these 3 triangles right there. So we have this cool little unfolding animation. Now here's something that I could do. I'm going to create another shape layer, but this time I'm going to use just the pen tool and put a line right in the center. Luckily I had a stroke of 26 on that. That's convenient. Alright, so let's take a look at this layer for a second. If I drag this down, twirl this down, again I'm going to hit Command Option Home, and then I actually want to stick that right there. I want to be able to have that line go right on the anchor point. One thing I can do here is bring up my title and action safe. It's right here. Turn that on, and then I can grab both of these points with my pen tool and drag them over here so that it lands right on the center of the screen. Alright, turn that off. Now I'm going to call this my line. Line star. I'm going to make, whoops. I did all sorts of stuff there. Alright. Hit enter. Name it line star. Then I'm going to twirl this down, and under contents I'm going to twirl that down. Shape 1, twirl that down. Under stroke, I'm going to twirl that down. And under the line cap, I'm going to change this from a butt cap to a round cap. And that'll just and do a round join also there, and that'll change that to a rounded edge. Question?
What do you do if contents doesn't show? It just says transform.
Then you don't. It's not a shape layer. Hold on one second. All right, so I've got this fun little thing right here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some trim paths, and I can do that up here, or I can do it down here. This little add arrow. Add trim paths. The cool thing about trim paths is if I twirl that down, I can trim the end of it so that it can grow out this way, or it can grow this way. And you could do a combination of both so that it like starts right here. So if both of them are at 0, no, 100 and 100, then you can keyframe that. And this one's going to be super fast. It's going to be like a little blip. Then we can extend them both down to 0. Only on one of them, we could do this way, and then like grab the first keyframe of one and the second keyframe of the other, and then do an ease. Whoa, that did something weird. That's not what I meant to do, but it's fine. That was kind of cute. All right.
Scott, how did you get the round cap and the round join? Where is that at?
It's under your stroke. Line cap and line join.
Oh, really?
All right, so now we're going to add another thing. Probably should have done this other thing first, done the repeater, but we can always turn off the visibility of the trim paths so that we can see our line again. So if it gets confusing, I'll just turn that off and we can take a look at it. But I'm going to do an add repeater and see. Now what the repeater does is by default it just creates 2 copies, each 100 pixels to the right of the previous copy. If you twirl down the repeater, this starts to get kind of crazy. Under transform the repeater, see how that position is 100? I'm going to turn that to 0, so all 3 of them are on top of each other. Then under rotation, I'm going to rotate it like that. But let's see, how many copies do we want? I'm going to do 10, because 10 sounds good right now. And then this rotation setting needs to be whatever 360 degrees divided by 10 is, which is 36 degrees, right? Right there. Or you can visually do it, just like turn that repeater until they all go reek. Now, if yours is looking weird and it looks like they're kind of spiraling in on each other or spiraling out of each other, the reason for that is that's why I got so crazy about putting that line right on the center. Because even if the anchor point is on the center of the line and then you put the anchor point in the center of your comp, for some reason the repeater doesn't work like this exactly. So that's why I did that. But now check it out. I've got this little star that does this little now I can use this and put this down here at the beginning and just do whatever I want with it. Maybe I'll time this so that it's in the middle at the same time that that's expanding out. Now I can change the position of this so it looks like it's actually in the middle of this. Cool. I don't really like that animation. All right. Let's do more with shapes. I'm going to make another little blip. I'm going to make another another one, but I'm going to do it with a circle. So this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up my title and action safe. I'm going to bring up a little ellipse and then make a circle. No? Oh, I just added it to that other shape. Make sure nothing is selected. I'm going to hold down Shift and make a little circle. And see that anchor point right there? That's totally okay. I'm happy with that. Now there's all sorts of things that we can keyframe. There's two different ways you got to think about the transform properties. You can transform the layer with scale, rotation, and position, or you can change the scale, rotation, and position of the shape on the layer. Okay, so there's two different types of animations here. What I'm going to be working with is the transform of this ellipse itself. Okay, because then what I can do is, as I scale this and do the position of it, I can skew it, I can do all sorts of things. As I do it to this, it'll do it in the repeater also. So if I add another repeater and have them turn into a whole bunch of circles going around, let me show you what I mean. Alright, so I'm going to do a combination of position and scale under the transform of the ellipse inside the contents. It gets confusing. Then I'm going to move those forward because I want this to end right here. I'm going to move it forward 20 frames. And I'm going to put the scale down. And then I'm going to move the position right here. Actually, I'm going to make this.
How do you think
Yeah, I
it
don't
will fill?
You just go up to you click on fill, and you click on that, and it'll do none. I actually want a fill. I do want a fill. I want it to be something like that, maybe. Okay, let's have fun with that repeater again. Add repeater, and then under the repeater transform, down again, I'm going to put the position at 0 again, and then make this copy 5 copies, which will make the rotation have to be 72. I just made a bunch of copies of that. Now let me adjust this position keyframe right here. I'm going to drag this down so that they all kind of converge on each other. And then I'm going to take this scale keyframe, move it over, and then add another one here at 0% so that it grows in from nothing really quickly. And then maybe add some rotation to it as well. Oh, no, not that one. I actually need to add the rotation to the layer. So that's where it starts getting confusing. So Alt-R or Option-R will add a rotation keyframe to the actual rotation. Now I want it to go a bunch of degrees. And then I'll add another one way back here at the end so that it'll just kind of keep rotating in that direction. Now here's a little tip about the graph editor. Let's say I want this to rotate really fast coming in, but then I want it to slow down and stop, or not stop, but maintain its rotation. But see how it's going? It's rotating at one speed and snap. It's going another speed. You can use the graph editor to adjust that. I'm actually going to crank this way negative so that it's spinning really fast. Okay. So if I add easy ease to that, which is function F9 or F9, then go into my graph editor. If I raise the velocity, or if I drop the velocity of this last one down here, raise the velocity of this one, and then raise the velocity of this one so that they so that this ramp slopes down. If I put this keyframe, put both of these handles and make this keyframe touch the bottom, that means it's going to slow down and stop, and then speed up again, and then stop again. So think of this as speed. This is moving fast, stopping, but by pulling both of these handles up, I didn't quite make it stop. I made it slow down to this point, and then it'll gradually come to a stop at the end. Okay? So now let's watch it. Okay? And then if I wanted it to really do like a ramp down, I could do it like this. I could increase the velocity of this one so that it really starts out fast and then totally slopes down. So the more smooth you can make this line, the less of a bump you're going to feel. Cool? That's pretty cool. All right. So that's fun. All right, let's do some stuff with this scale keyframe. Let's ease it out a whole bunch right there. And then let's do another, wait. Go up really fast from there. And then when it gets to right here, I want it to scale really big again, like get even bigger, but then let it come back down to its other size. And then I'm just going to go, before it actually stops, I'm going to have them scale back down to 0. And then I'll just add lots of easing to everything, because I love easing. All right. So right when this does its little thing down here, that's when I'll have these circles start to come out. But I need to put them in the middle of that little star blast. So I'm messing around here, obviously. All right, now let's do one last thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this layer here. So I've got a few things happening. None of it is in 3D yet, but it will be. All right, so I'm going to hit Command A, hit U a couple of times to hide all the keyframes. Then I need to figure out some way to reveal some text. Let's do it using a couple of boxes. More shapes. Here we go. Rectangle tool with nothing selected. I'm going to draw a rectangle over here. I'm going to drop the stroke of that down to 0. Make the fill another color. Guess I should maybe do this sort of green, since we're doing red, green, and blue here. All right, so I'm going to do two rectangles. Now I'm going to do my same little technique. I'm going to put this anchor point over on this edge of it. So I'm going to hit Y for my move behind tool, and then hold down Option, or hold down Command while I drag this, and it'll kind of try to lock that to these handles. So now I've moved that anchor point right over to that edge. I'm going to hit my left bracket to shift the beginning of this layer to my playhead. And then I'm going to hit Option S, and that'll turn on keyframes for that. Now I'm going to for this I'm going to unlink okay, no, I'm good. All right, so for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink the scale properties so that I can adjust the X scale only. But before I do that, I'm going to move this first keyframe that I made over about 10 frames, roughly 10 frames. And then I'm going to enter 0 for the X value of that scale, and that'll just make it come across like that. All right, now what I want to do is have this rectangle come back in to that side, and there's a couple ways I could do that, but I'm not sure. Let's see. So if I click on my rectangle shape underneath the contents and twirl that down, I've got a rectangle path, and I can change the size of that. But I've got a rectangle, or I've got another anchor point inside this rectangle. So what I want to do is move that anchor point a second time and lock that to this edge of it. Kind of confusing. So that the rectangle itself has an anchor point, and then the layer has an anchor point. So now what I want to do is, now that that's coming out that way, I want to click on the size of the rectangle itself, and then do 2 frames to scale that. Oh no, I lied to you. Actually, no, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and embrace that. Got to add lots of keyframes though. All right. These 2 middle keyframes, I'm going to adjust the weight of those a ton. So this really snaps in, and then this really snaps. I'm doing these one at a time because Command-Shift-K only works for like keyframes. If you're doing a scale keyframe on multiple layers, you can do it, but if you do it to a scale and rotation at the same time, it'll only do it to either the scale or the rotation, so you have to do each value separately. All right, now what I want to do to this is, just for giggles, I want to duplicate this, and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees to put it over there. And now I'm going to just manually move this over to this side so that I have these two layers kind of doing this little thing. Then magically underneath here, I'm going to do a text layer that'll just start right here. I'm going to call it hologram. And I'm going to use something other than Helvetica. Sure. Why not? Let's use this. Alright, so I'm going to have that layer start right here, but I want it to be stacked underneath the green boxes. Ooh, here's another cool thing I want to do right now. Let's make another rectangle layer and do some more trim paths. And this one, so with nothing selected, I'm going to do my best to draw a box around this. And it just so happens to have all the same properties as those others did, but now I need to take off the fill, and I'm going to increase the stroke a bunch. Then I'm going to add trim paths again, so I can do that over here, or right here. Add trim paths. And this one, what I want to do is have them each start at 50 and 50. And then I'm going to go forward to right there, right when it's done. Right when those green ones are done, I'm going to put this one at 0, and then this one up to 100. Whoa. Yes. No. 0, 100, 0. Okay, check it out. Now what I want to do is I want to have the beginning of this thing start so that this offset will allow me to place it like so. So if I do, what is that, 90 degrees? 100 degrees? Weird. I want it to start right in the middle there. That did it. Alright, now I'm going to add easing to this, but I'm only going to add easing to, I'm going to add easing to both. I'm going to do this in my graph editor because I've got two different values, but I'm going to grab the first ones, draw a box around, because, okay, so this orange line represents the start value, and this pink line represents the end value. So with two values here, I'm going to select the two that are the beginning and drag this handle out this way. And if I hold down Shift, I'll keep that keyframe on that baseline. Select those two, grab this handle, drag them both out this way. Now I got a nice little wing. And we could get crazy and just like keep going with all these different animations. But I want to get putting these in some 3D space. But before I do that, I want to do another little star blip. Because I want each one of these, when they disappear, I want them to do a little star, boing, a little thingamabobber. But this time, what I'm going to do is do a star. Let's do another little star here. let's make this one easy on ourselves. Let's make that begin right there. Hit S, or Alt S to add a scale keyframe. And then go forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. And that, or make that scale, add another scale keyframe. So both of them are the same, but I want to have this first one be 0. And then under my polystar, if I pull that down, twirl down stroke, then I can change the size of my stroke to, so it starts at 22. So I got this star that's coming out. I'm going to have to put the anchor point right in the middle. But I've got this star that comes out like that. And then if I keyframe the stroke down to 0, then it'll gradually become a thinner stroke and then disappear. Okay, so let me select that star layer, hit Command Option Home, and that'll put the anchor point in the middle. So now it'll just go wing right there. I'm going to drag this second keyframe for the scale over a little bit, hit F9, Command Shift K, turn this up to like 90, and then I'm going to take the first keyframe of this stroke and then hit F9, Command Shift K, and I'm going to change this to like 70 and 70. Whoops, 0, 70. Okay, so now I've got this little star that just appears right on the corner when that corner gets there. Boing! So I'm going to do another one, another little star layer. Let's hide all these keyframes. Too many keyframes. All right. So I'm going to duplicate this star layer. Put one there. Duplicate it again. Put it there. Now what I want to do, just for the fun of it, is I'm going to select this first star layer and change the stroke and eyedropper this red color. Click OK. Do this one. This one's over here, so that's going to be the blue color. Oops. Click OK. Do this one, the green color. Click OK. And now we have little stars going boing. All right, now let's stack these 3 stars down here so they're below. Let's have the timing of these boxes come in a lot earlier because we want them to like come in as these circles are going away. So I'm going to drag all these this way. Actually, let's put those circles up above. Alright, sound fun? Now let's do some more fun stuff. Let's put all of these layers in 3D space. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just make them all 3D layers to begin with. Shrink. So I selected all of them and then clicked on one of the boxes, these little 3D boxes, and made them 3D layers. Then what I want to do is switch my views to 2 views horizontal so I can see 2 different angles. I'm going to make that one a little smaller. Then let's pretend I'm looking at this one from the top, okay? Let's pretend that the default plane that these are sitting on, that's the surface of our phone screen. And we want the hologram, this animation, to come up off the phone screen, right? So right now I've got these 3 layers, which are my unfolding triangle layers. That could all happen right on the surface of the screen. don't you think? Because like the first thing, it's like, oh, look, an animation on the face of the phone. Good for you guys. You're so creative. And then as soon as this comes down like this, maybe this blippy thing is not on the surface, but if we pull it forward toward us, closer to us, it's happening off the surface. If I pull it up right here. Then we're not really seeing this right now because we're looking at this from the front right here and then looking at it from the top right here. But let's pretend these 3 star layers as they do their little blip. We do an Alt P with the 3 of them selected so that once they grow out like this, as until they disappear, I'm looking at my boxes here. Okay, so until they disappear, we have them moving up like this. So when the corner of those triangles hit that spot, these stars like pop up off the screen and jump forward. Okay, can you imagine it? Let me show you this from our custom view. Custom view kind of shows a little bit of a side angle. So right now, they're just doing this. Oh, let's look at it from this angle. See how that's out in front? Boom. The stars are like jumping forward. Okay, so let's do that with our circles that are coming out in their pattern. Let's do the same thing. Let's go. Let's actually have these start from below the surface of the phone and have them come out.
The circles or
The circles. Yeah, let me rename this. This is circles. This is red star. Blue star. Green star. And the other thing about these 3 stars is once they're disappeared, we don't need to have them hang around.
Scott,
all right.
how did you end? You just ended the thing without deleting all your keyframes. I've been trying to get mine to end, and everything's disappearing.
Wherever the playhead is,
Yeah.
if you hit Option right bracket, that'll
Option.
trim it. That trims it. So right bracket will move the end of it to that point.
I was just
Option-
right bracketing it, and it was.
Yeah, Option right bracket will
Okay.
trim it. Question?
While we're talking about key commands, is there an alternative to Command Option Home if we're working on a laptop and it doesn't have a home key?
It's function left arrow on your keyboard on your laptop.
You need about
Yeah,
10
that's your home
fingers
key.
to-
Okay.
Yeah, that's your home key.
Okay.
Function right arrow is your end key. All right. Okay, position. All right, so what I want to do is for this first one, I'm going to do it with my values here because I have my keyframe set. I'm just going to push this back a little bit so that it starts back. Then I'm going to come forward so that once they reach their apex of bigness, I'm going to have it come forward to like 200 and then have it drift backward until it disappears back to -100. Okay, so it started out at 100, which is back. It's kind of weird. That's why I like looking at things from the top, because from the top, down is toward us, up is away from us. But if I do the values in Z, the higher the number, the farther up from the top view it goes. That's how I remember plus and minus for Z space. So here it is right here. It's going to fly forward, and then it's going to slowly drift backward. And now we have to decide spatially where we want these two boxes to go. Right now, they're behind the circles, and then they remain behind the circles, but they're at the 0 plane, which means they're on the surface. The boxes are on the surface of the phone again, but we want like hologram word and box and green boxes to be forward, right? Above. So let's take, let's see, green box 1 and green box 2, and I'll call this one box outline. So wherever these green boxes go, I'm going to make sure that this outline just comes forward a little bit from them. That's probably too much. All right. Now I'm going to grab all 3 of them, the green boxes and the white box, and pull them forward. Now they're actually going to be in front of those circle dots, or circles, as they're disappearing, but that's fine for me. I actually kind of like that. And then I'm going to take the hologram layer, and I'm going to set it just back of those green ones, so that if I pull it out in front, look, it actually comes in front, and I want them to reveal it. So I just need to make sure that it's slightly back from those green boxes, slightly. I just said slightly 100 times. All right. Now, here's the fun. Remember how we made that solid layer in the phone hover? What we're going to do is take the hologram animation and replace that layer with it. Do you remember how to do that?
Drag it in holding your
Yeah, so I've got it
shift key.
close. It's option.
Option key.
So if you have this selected, drag this hologram animation, pull it down while holding the option key, let go of it anywhere in the timeline, because this is the selected layer, that's the one it's going to replace. Let go, nothing happened. That's because we're at the beginning of our timeline. So watch this. It's not going to be a miracle yet. It will be, don't worry. So we've got a little animation happening on the phone screen. But it's all happening right on the phone screen, right? Here's what we do. Remember how I was talking about redraw, the redraw function, and how we can do continually rasterizing? Well, if I turn this on for a layer that has 3D stuff happening inside it, it breaks it all out in the 3D space as though it's a 3D object. So now watch what'll happen. Ring. Ooh. Fun, right?
Yeah, but it kind of, don't you think it should be higher up?
Which
Because
part?
Well, I don't know, because instead of it looking like it's up higher, it just looks like it's too far that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So we got yep, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Let's do some timing changes on here. Let's make this go. Let's make this one go in reverse. And watch it in reverse. What do you think of that? Because now what we could do is take this phone hover, put it into another composition, and reverse that, which is like a reverse of a reverse. That's too much work. I did that all wrong. There are people watching this now that are just like, you idiot, just reverse the... Just reverse these two. Don't reverse this one. No, reverse them all. Yeah, that's much easier. No, it's hard both ways. Anyway, you could do that. Here's something we could do. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you something fun. Let's go into our hologram animation. And right about here, see the stars? Let's pre-comp those. Wait a second. Yeah, let's pre-comp those. So I'm going to select these three stars. Hit Command-Shift-C, and that'll do a pre-comp. If we do, I'll move all attributes into new composition, that's fine. Call this one 3 stars. Click OK. Now what I want to do is turn on time remapping. Do Command-Alt-T, or right-click on it and turn on, go to time, enable time remapping, which is Command-Alt-T. And then what I'm going to do is add a keyframe right here for the time remapping, and then go forward till the star disappears. And I'm going to have to turn on the redraw for this layer because these little stars are in 3D space also. Click a time remap keyframe for that, and then I'm going to delete this first one and this last one. And then if I want to, I could trim this layer back. So what that does is it says start here and there. But the cool thing I can do now is Option click the stopwatch for those two keyframes and then type LOOP, capital OUT, parenthesis, quotation, cycle, quotation, parenthesis, close parenthesis. Soft return, and watch. Oh, actually, I need this to keep going out here forever and ever. Watch what will happen. Stars will just keep going. As long as that layer is there. And then what we could do to make it even cooler is we could add rotation to that and have it rotate like 2 times. And then those stars will just be like going around and around. Trust me, it'll be cool. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to duplicate it again. Pew, 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 pew,
It looks like
pew.
the Wonder Woman insignia.
Do it again.
You're wonderful.
And again.
It looks like your red and your blue one are overlapping.
Yeah. Let's get rid of that 4th one. Let's see, how many frames did I offset that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just to make it a little bit more exact. And then I'm going to take all these and keep extending it out over that way. All right. Maybe this will help us. Maybe this will help us see the 3D space a little bit better. Sorta.
The blue one's doing something funky.
Well,
It's just me.
I think what's happening is there's like some inverse motion. It's because they're coming toward the camera here. Should have it rotate the other direction. That one's going, let's make it -2. We're gonna have to do that here too. That's the problem with these. Duplicating layers and all their keyframes sometimes. -2. -2. All right. Now it looks like they're doing a little bit better. All right, let's do some fun stuff now. Let's do some compositing. I'm going to duplicate, this might not work. I'm going to duplicate this and add some, nope, it's not going to work. Just kidding. Let's put some effects on it. Let's put a glow. And make it go all sparkly like. So that only on those highlights we can see some glow. Then we can also, on some of these layers, we could add a transfer mode so that we can only see certain things. Like, I kind of liked seeing those strokes on these layers before. So let's turn the stroke up on these a little bit, because the glow is doing some work on the stroke too. And then, because I have these stars layers, let's add glow to each of these star layers as well so that they get a little bit brighter. Turn the threshold down on that. Yeah. Glow radius, glow intensity. Copy that. Put it here, here, and here. And then I'm also going to add motion blur to everything. And then add motion blur to that, because everything's moving. Hologram. If we wanted to get really wacko with this, see how the hologram is here? We could take this hologram layer and then have the box outline follow it. And then we could take the anchor point and set the anchor point back I'm gonna use my move behind tool just to move the anchor point. Because the position here of it is negative 120, so if I do an anchor point of 120, that'll put this right at 0. So then maybe what I could do is once this comes out to right here, I could do a rotation on the X value and then have it rotate toward the camera a little bit, which would be moving it this way. I think, yeah.
But if you make it stand up from the phone, is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm just gonna do a basic keyframe on that. Okay, let's go back to the phone hover. Now, boing. Does that look cool?
No.
No? Oh.
I'm not sure I'm liking the blur on the stars.
Yeah.
It looks like a disco coloring.
Yeah, it kind of does, huh? I could, we could add wiggle to the intensity and have it go.
That
All
may
right.
induce seizures. I don't know if we want to go into that.
Of course we do.
You know what we could do? This could be fun. Let's make a solid. So Command Y. Actually, just kidding. Let's do a shape layer that's another box. But double click on it and make a shape layer that's the size of the comp. Sure, green, why not? All right, let's make this 3D and then do yeah, do a position keyframe, and because it's ending right here, I'm gonna have it drop down from the sky, and then do like a really, really long Z position drop down into place. Ease the heck out of this. And then I'm just going to duplicate this like a bunch. And then do my little offset thing. All right. Now, I don't know what this is going to look like, but let's see. Pew. It's 3D now.
And beam us into space.
Hologram.
See, that's what's weird is the green, it looks like it's too high up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It just looks like, oh, you messed up. You didn't put it in the right spot.
Well, sorry. Let's add some scale to this. Make it go a little bit smaller. I'm going to keyframe that. Make it extreme. Then redo my little thing here. Now let's see what it looks like. I think one of the problems we were having was that the green boxes were, like the stroke on the box was going outside the border. So it probably looked like it was too big. Here's a cool thing I'm going to try. I'm going to pre-comp all of these so that they become the boxes pre-comp. And then I need to expand that out again, make it 3D. I wonder if my stars are going weird because they're not really 3D anymore. Let's see. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this hologram box. I don't know if this is going to work.
Could you do the hologram box so that it looks like it's coming up from the phone? So it's kind of like a, you know what I'm saying? So it looks like it's coming up from that, and then the hologram kind of pops off the top of it.
Yeah, sure. All right. All right. Sorry, I'm going fast now. That's because I'm just mucking around. I'm like going above and beyond the grade requirement here. All right, so right here, let's just delete all of you guys, make you follow that, use that as a track mat for this. No, wait, I need to keep all of this. Only not the trim paths. And then I need to put a fill on that. Any old fill will do. And then I need to duplicate that. And put one in between each one of these. No, I lie. I only really need to do it on this last one. Because once that's in place, I don't need the rest of these anymore, because then I just have the one green layer, and I can use this, turn it into a track mat.
Yeah, I'm glad you're recording this.
I'm going really fast. Like this is a lot. This is kind of more advanced. I'm not even sure if this is going to work. Boing. Oh, it totally did. Look at that. It's covering it. Cool. Okay, what do you think of it now? Boing. Swing. All right, I kind of like it.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, so the important thing, let me tell you the important things here. You got to use some shape layers, create some shape arrays or little animations that you can then put into a 3D space and then place on the phone. So like this is I probably went about 50 steps farther than you have to go. So as long as you have some of your own little animation happening that the layers can kind of take some Z-axis space shift, and then that it'll show the parallax of that depth as the camera goes over the top of the phone so that you can see that there's stuff floating above the phone, but also on the face of the phone. Does that make sense? All right. So I think that portion of it right there is worth 50 points, and then the ride-on effect is 25 points, and then the camera tracking is the other 25 points. Okay, so that'll be a lovely assignment for you.
The camera tracking on this phone.
Yeah, but then there's the other one as well. I still want to see a little fly-through text that we did last week. Do you remember that? As we were walking through the classroom with the phone, with the camera. Yeah, so that's part of this same assignment. All right.
You don't ask too much, do you?
No, I don't. That was an hour and a half.